Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's video is going to be a game review for Marvel's Avengers. We want to thank you guys for watching, and we're going to skip the long-winded intro this time and just get right into it, so hope you enjoy.
All right. So to start off the con list this game, I would say the biggest thing across the board is the frame rates of this entire game, especially when you get like so many enemies and characters, especially like when you play online with each other, so many in like one screenshot essentially, or even sometimes enemies or even yourself or teammates don't even show up. They're just not even there. And it just ends up getting so laggy and glitchy.
Yeah, that actually kind of leads into one of my cons. It does have quite a few bugs, especially when there's a lot of animations and stuff going on during the fights. Massive frame rate drops to the point where you can't even really tell what's going on, and it basically just almost freezes. And then it catches back up again. And it generally only happens, it didn't happen too much during the actual playthrough of the campaign, which is good, because I did really enjoy the campaign. But yeah, during the online multiplayer portion, when you're doing those missions, it kind of takes away from the experience a little bit.
A big issue is the one reason I couldn't get into the game Destiny, and everybody disagrees with me, but is this that missions feel so repetitive to the point where it starts to get boring, essentially, and that's what the same vibe is here. It plays very much like Destiny. You do a lot of the same or similar style missions over and over again. It's eventually I get the point is just to build up gear, get higher gear, and to go through it. But like, yeah, once you get done with the campaign portion of it, and you're doing just like war zones or different types of co-op missions, it really is just like a lot of like repetitive missions where you're just fighting the same bosses and same enemies. They've just bumped up like the level cap of them each time, where it doesn't feel anything new. You can go back and play the story missions again. I'm fine with that. The multiplayer, I think, is the biggest portion of the cons I think we're both gonna have.
That could also kind of lead into another con of mine. My biggest complaint with the game as a whole is just the fighting mechanics and how they work. It feels really clunky at times. So like the moves and the animations look cool, but then something is off with like the flow during the actual fights. In between those cool little like finisher moves or like team finishers that you can do, I think it's really due to the dodge function. It's hard to time when to dodge, just in general anyway, but then it's also even harder. It's compounded by some enemies have two attacks in a row where you have to dodge both of them in succession in order to not get hit. And then on top of that, you can also be hit by another enemy or projectile while you're in the midst of dodging a different enemy. Basically, if you get in a group of where you're surrounded, it's impossible to get out of there unless you hit dodge the whole time, and then you can't attack. So it's like basically you either play defense the whole time or you just hit them back and then get hit every now and then and just try to take damage. But when you play a character with low health like I do, like I like to play as Black Widow, she doesn't have as much health as some of the other characters. It takes a good couple hits from these robots that you're fighting, and then you're dead. Like, you gotta be revived. That just kind of ruins it for me a little bit. Spider-Man PS4 and the Arkham series are a great example of how to do fight mechanics in, like, these superhero games. And the dodge is perfect in those games. How it works, the timing on it. And in this game, too, when you get a perfect dodge, like, the timing is perfect, it does slow down time a little bit. But I feel like it doesn't really do much to help you. It's just hard to get a good flow and combo going when you have to just constantly dodge, and then most of the time it doesn't even work. It's just too complicated for what this is supposed to be. I mean, kids could be trying to play this game and just be getting shit on all the time because I have trouble with it. I mean, in this gameplay, I'm pretty sure I get downed and revived at least 3 or 4 times. Just because I'm getting blasted by some other person across the... It's just this giant robot hitting me with a laser from across the way, and it's just one-shotting me. There's so many people around me that I'm hitting circle to try to dodge constantly because there's that little exclamation point above my head. So I'm trying to dodge, but it doesn't... Unless you time it right, it doesn't dodge. So I'm dodging the ones that are near me because I think they're meleeing me, but it's that thing aiming at me across the map. And I can't dodge out of the way, I just get hit by it. Having the ability to just dodge, if you do a perfect dodge, it should just counterattack for you real quick. Just a little light attack just to throw them off balance, so you can kind of get your footing back again and get back into the fight. The whole thing where you have to dodge perfectly and then hit R2 to do a little parry or a counter move is just ridiculously overcomplicated for what this game needs to be.
I think that's its big issues because it's like I said, this game is mainly a multiplayer game, so I think those are the biggest issues for me in terms of the multiplayer portion, unless you had something else about it, my other cons pretty much come from the story. As much as I love the story, one thing I can notice is it blends the story and the multiplayer interface together essentially. You can kind of go back and forth, and I guess that's fine if you're wanting to go back and forth and not have to exit the menu completely. But what it can do is, I noticed for some people, myself included, when I first was starting, is that it makes it kind of weird to maneuver around doing missions because I didn't really know which missions I was. I didn't know if I was doing story missions or multiplayer missions until after I already clicked it and found out, oh, there's a cutscene here. That's awesome. And I looked a little bit later, and it does say in smaller print above it, hey, this is the story mission. But I didn't know that going in. There's just a bunch of different tabs to click when you're on that war table, and you can't, at least for me in the beginning, I couldn't find out like what was what. It was just a weird interface to maneuver around. And also with that, like on top of the story, another thing I didn't really like as much is this game is marketed and labeled as an Avengers game, but playing it, it's definitely a Miss Marvel game. Like, this is Miss Marvel. You play as her majority of the game. The story is based entirely around her. For a good portion of it, you don't even have the Avengers around, where you're just maneuvering her storyline, and then it becomes an Avengers game at the very beginning mission, and then the very end when everybody's together to do that final boss battle. I guess then it becomes an Avengers mission. But the entire game, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with Miss Marvel. She's got her issues in this game regardless, but I'm fine with that character as a whole. But going into it, I guess I expected more of an Avengers game story, just based around all of them, and they just felt like side characters.
It's a product of the story they were trying to tell, because the majority of the story is the Avengers disbanded, and the whole main point of the story is the main protagonist Kamala is trying to get them all back together. Yeah, they're not back together until the end, because that's kind of like the main crescendo of the story. It's, they're just trying to assemble all the team members again. And you do play a lot as Kamala, but you do, as you kind of get each team member to come back into, you get to play as them for a couple levels or something. And I do think you get a decent amount with each character equally, other than Kamala. You get her more because she's the main focus of the story. But I feel like you get to play a decent amount of levels with each other character to level them up a little bit and kind of get their fighting style down.
I definitely chose to. Whenever the option came up, I was like, yeah, I want to play as them now, please.
To go back to your point about the multiplayer missions and how they kind of relate to the story a little bit, like a lot of them are areas and levels that you played in the campaign mode. There's just like an extended version of it where you can go and do a little bit more exploring. You have your friends with you playing as characters instead of you having computer characters with you. That's nice for a little bit, but then at a certain point you go in and you go to the table and you look at all the missions there are. There's a ton of them, and they're all different power levels, so you kind of have to look at your level and then go find an easy one that fits your level, and then go find harder ones as you level up, when it would really just be easier if it was organized in a way that showed you that they were in categories of like easy, intermediate, hard, veteran, that sort of thing. It would be better too if they had them post-campaign multiplayer missions organized in a way where it was like another campaign, but you get to play with friends this time. Like where if it was a story, like you have to go in order of the missions, and it equals another story, and there's maybe another like smaller boss or villain at the end of it, and then you get to progress through it that way. Instead of just having a bunch of hodgepodge like free roam missions that you can do, you get like an actual story, another campaign that you can play with friends. You did bring up that Kamala, you do play as her most of the story, which is true. She's the main focus of the story. It's kind of what it was built around, which is a good thing, and I'll go over that in the pros. There's good things to say about her. While we're in the cons here, Kamala Khan, she's strong from a fighting standpoint. She's made to look very physically strong. That's never in question. It's just that she looks and sounds immature at times with her dialogue and kid-like commentary. She's supposed to be 15 or 16 during the majority of this story. There isn't anything wrong with being quirky or awkward. Peter Parker is a great example of that. But there is a difference between cringy and awkward. And a lot of times her dialogue was extremely cringeworthy. Because I remember whenever we both first got the game, and I was trying to say, like, we should play it sort of at the same time, like, while we're in a party together, and that way we can talk about what part we're at and, like, kind of see, like, if there's any big reveals or whatever, and go through it at the same time. And I was like, there's this just cutscene where she's in this lab and she's telling Hulk All she has to say is Hulk smash. That's it. And that would have been great. That would have been such a good little cutscene. But then she gets all serious and does this dramatic reading. She's like, Hulk. And I'm like, she's just going to say smash. All you need to say is smash. And she's like, Hulk, I need you to destroy everything in this lab. Tear it to shreds. Rampage. Smash everything in sight. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You're like auditioning for Broadway. Like, just tell him to smash and that's it. Like, that's all you had to do. That's his fucking catchphrase. And I'm just like, I know you're emotional because of the discovery of what they were doing in that lab. Just stuff like that is just like, she just said stuff like that the majority of the game. At the end, she did get better. The character development she had, she got much better, I will admit. But at the beginning, man, I was cringing every scene she was in.
They wanted to give her that kid personality, but she was like 16 in this or somewhere around there, but she acted like she was like 6. And like with the Hulk smash thing, people argue. I've even seen people argue and say, well, that's just the thing that we see as viewers in a movie. I'm like, yeah, but in this universe, the Avengers are a thing. They got comics, they got all that stuff. Hulk smash is definitely a thing that everybody knows is his catchphrase in this world. So her being a super fan knows that. You're telling me that even during all that stressful stuff, she's not going to take the opportunity to even say that. I know it sounds like such a tiny gripe, but it bugged the shit out of me too. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" This was that moment. It's just one of those small moments that you can just add in there to make me help like her a little bit more.
Yeah, I think what my main problem is with that scene and kind of most of her character in general, she never really gets angry. She's only ever like upset or like sad or making a kind of a grimace face. It's never like a pissed off face, like where you're gritting your teeth. She's more just like making a grimace and like trying not to cry and getting super emotional about it. That's not how you make someone look strong. I mean, she could have just got so pissed off at that scene that she could have jumped down there, started smashing all that stuff herself, or told Hulk just, to see her face change, just be like, Hulk, smash. Like, you don't need to get all upset and weird about it. Like, I know you're young, like 15 or 16 or whatever we're saying, and there's a lot going on and stuff, but like at a certain point, you're allowed to get mad. Most people would. You get upset at first and then you get mad. That's how the natural progression of feelings works. Just get pissed off and start smashing shit.
That's not what they wanted to do, I guess, but
they're like they tried to make her like stoic and like strong in the face of adversity, but like just get pissed off and lose control of your emotions, and then you can have a learning moment afterwards.
Yeah, whatever they were doing with her, I don't know. I didn't get behind her. I couldn't. As much as they tried to make me like her, I couldn't get with it. And just because of her, it was just because she was just too much. She was too cringeworthy for me to pay attention to until her story unfolded at the end. Yeah, her entire climb there was too much.
While we're talking about characters, there is a very noticeable lack of villains in the game. There's plenty of minions and robots and AIM employees and whatever that are after you, but as far as main villains go, there's Taskmaster, who's not in it at all except for the very beginning. Abomination, who's in it for like one level as a boss fight, and then MODOK is in it the whole from start to finish, obviously. But that's it. There's no other main huge noticeable villains. There just needs to be more noticeable villains for the boss battles. It's almost lazy what they did with like the foot soldiers and henchmen. They just had robots that just kind of got bigger and did more things instead of having like an actual. And there was multiple of them each level, and I didn't really appreciate that. I was like, have smaller ones be foot soldiers, have one or two be a little bit stronger than those, and then have one main boss robot that's different each level. But really, what it was is the further you got in the game as you progressed, it was just more quantity of all of them. So by like the last level, you're fighting the weakest ones, the intermediate ones, the little bit harder ones, and then the hardest ones, all at the same time. And and then sometimes while you're fighting a major boss during that level as well. But most of the time, it was just like huge numbers of just all of all of the hardest ones mixed in with like some easy ones. And
Yeah,
that's just lazy, and then also it kind of made it a little hard. It's easy when you can focus on one boss. When there's three boss robots that all do the same thing, and like you have to, especially with how the dodge and fight mechanics all work, and like we were talking about, it just made it so hard to even enjoy some of those levels. Just adding like maybe like a Red Skull or like Loki or something, like one of the other characters' main villain, that would have helped out a lot. If just just a couple more peppered in there.
Yeah, if Ultimate Alliance can do it, you can do it too. I don't know what the issue was. The story they wanted, I guess, they just wanted to give us a bunch of AIM soldiers, which personally I don't like AIM. It gets old fighting a bunch of bots in this game and a bunch of just small henchmen that have like maybe like a shield. That's like the big thing that it'll do. Like, oh yeah, we got shield. That's it. We're different, but it's essentially the same fucking enemy. I think it's annoying.
Yeah, that's what made me really mad too. The really strong robots all had shields.
Yeah.
And you had to do like a specific button or sequence to like break through their shield or something. And not that that hasn't been in other games, but it was easier to do in other games. Like once you broke through the shield in like say like Spider-Man, like if the people that had like the riot shields or whatever, you had like several different combos or moves that you could do that would break their shield or stagger them. And then if you did it the right way, they would just drop their shield and they wouldn't be able to use it again. These ones, you break through it and then you can get a combo off and then they put up their shield again. That's just annoying.
Yeah, like I said, aside from the story, the multiplayer just felt a little like too much. Like they tried to do too much at once and they rushed it at the same time. And
Yeah.
overall, yeah, it became something that I didn't enjoy as much as I did the story, which does lead to a lot of good stuff we have about the game, the pros, because I know it's not a straight shit game. It is. They do have a good amount of pros in it too.
Actually, before you do that, I have a really petty con that I want to get out there. My last one. Cap's suit at the beginning of this game was trash. Absolutely horrible. I was like cool with how everybody else looked, and just that opening scene on A-Day. It all looked really good, and then Cap showed up, and he's got all these weird buckles and straps that don't do anything. Like, his arm guards are basically strapped around his forearm. Like, they're not, like, you either have to have them so tight that they're going to cut off your circulation, or loose enough to where that they would definitely move when you're doing stuff. I always argue that, like, function more than aesthetic all the way, but that thing did not serve a function at all, and it was ugly on top of that. So, it looked like a Velcro airsoft vest. It looks like it would just protect you from getting hit by like little plastic BBs, and that's it.
And I'm a Cap fan, so it really did bug me because the movies. I'll take the Avengers spandex suit over the base suit that they gave in this game any day.
Yeah,
and I hated that shit.
But now we can get to the cons. I just had to throw out that last little like petty thing that I didn't like about it.
I was wondering if you were going to talk about it, and I didn't hear anything. So I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, I was saving that for last because it's like just something I was being just difficult about.
It's understandable. I know, like we and you talked off camera too about the pros, and there's plenty. For me, I think they pretty much all kind of base around the story. Almost all of them, at least. For me, that's like the story. As much as it kind of bugged me a little bit that it was mainly Miss Marvel's story, I still enjoyed the story. I thought it was good. I thought MODOK was done really well, and it proved to me that if they really wanted to, they could put MODOK in movies and make him, somewhat believable. I know everybody always thought and argued that he'd be a little too cartoony, myself included, but this showed that it's possible to do it in a good way. And on top of that, the voice acting was phenomenal too. Because you had Troy Baker and Nolan North coming in doing that, and as soon as I saw them in there, I was like, "This is gonna be fantastic." You got Nathan Drake and then Joel from Last of Us, both of them coming in here and killing it. And I thought at first I didn't know what I was gonna think of them with the characters that was chosen for them, but I thought they did an excellent job, and everybody on top of it too.
The overall story of the game, I think we can both agree on, was really good. Despite what we thought about certain characters or certain levels at times or villains, the story was well written. I thought it was a good setup for the Inhumans and how AIM basically was like, yeah, look what the Avengers did. They made all these people that are hurting themselves and others, and now we're gonna help these people. It's just a good like breeding ground for an evil science organization to step in and take over. Through all the story and the campaign, while you do play as Miss Marvel more often than not, I feel like it does give you ample enough time with each character. I can't think of one person who was underutilized. Kamala got overutilized probably, but then again, the story is mainly about her. The Avengers are just side characters in this.
I know this is kind of a con and a pro that I was thinking of too, but I know it's and this is the fight styles and the character play styles. They do feel clunky in terms of how you actually manage them yourself, whether it's the countering, the blocking, or just the fighting in general. But one pro for me is that they are at least unique, to where they didn't just copy and paste essentially for every person, and they did give them unique abilities to do, unique like actual finishers or fight styles. Each one felt like I was playing a different character, and it didn't just feel like it was a cosmetic of Black Widow or a cosmetic of Hulk pasted on top of each ability, which felt a little bit better to do because then it leads to you choosing or maining a certain character that you fit more with. Like me, whether it's my bias or not, mine's obviously Cap, whereas your playstyle fit more with Black Widow, and it makes you be able to choose which one you actually like playing more, which I really like. And then on top of that, the skills that you unlock for each character, those also feel unique. And when you build your skill tree all the way up, it depends on how you build it, and it gives you a different set of abilities, a different way that you play, whether you're more defensive or whether you're very attack heavy like a tank, or you're using more of your like your weapon more. Like if you're Cap, I built mine around the shield ability, being able to um, bounce those off certain objects and people, or be able to hit more combos with them. It's just those felt really cool too, and I did like that they went in depth with that.
Speaking of the characters, like I thought they were all done really well, like from a design standpoint, how the suits looked and
Mm-hmm.
how they looked, because you're having to make something from scratch basically. It's not based on the MCU or those movies or that storyline at all. You have to differentiate it a little bit, and I thought they looked like the Avengers characters, they just were a different take on them. So I thought everybody design wise looked really good and looked different enough to make it stand out from what's been going on in the MCU and all that kind of stuff. I think the entire game was designed well in general. I think when the some of those cutscenes did happen during the main story or during those levels, like the scenery and how everything was done really well. I thought
Yeah,
it's more so how the game mechanics worked and the fighting mechanics that was rushed. I feel like we've talked a lot about the main character, the main protagonist, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. And yeah, the story is centered around her for the most part. While we do have opinions and thoughts on how her character was kind of written a little poorly, she is a strong female character, and they do a good job of showing that throughout the story as she kind of progresses. She is very good fighter, strong physically, and it's just kind of her emotional and mental maturity kind of comes into question at times. But she does get better towards the end, like we said. She does grow a lot and mature a lot over the course of this game. Especially during the final battle, I feel like she is kind of come full circle. Like she is realizing that she is part of something greater than herself now. She's throwing away all of her like kind of childlike tendencies and realizing like she is a part of the Avengers now. She has to step up and kind of be a leader on her own. I feel like before she was always very maybe it was a confidence thing, or just afraid that she would maybe hurt herself or somebody if she did kind of go full force. Yeah, I feel like she had good character development towards the end of the story. So overall, she ends up as a pretty endearing character.
this was like probably one of those middle ground areas where I love the story. She had her things that bugged me, but I know some people loved her, so it's not really a falter, I guess. It's a personal preference. I think some people will like her, so don't take our complete word for it. Go play it yourself. And I think that was it for my pros. I think unless you had more, that's pretty much the top for me.
Alright guys, that completes our review of Marvel's Avengers. It's a very fun game at the very least. It's got a lot of things that could be fixed on it or improved upon, but it is an enjoyable experience, and Corey and I do still enjoy playing the online co-op missions. We hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the videos, it really helps us out, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below, and turn on notifications so you don't miss an upload. We're going to go ahead and save our progress here. We'll catch you guys in the next one. We've been Off Script. That's game over.